Hey guys, guess what I got? Yes. As you can probably notice, there's something missing here. My store unfortunately did not have number 3 of Last Stand of the Wreckers, but I have it on order from IDW and it should be coming any day now. So I've only read number 1 so far, so that's all I'm going to review today. But as soon as I get 3, the review should be coming a little bit faster, but hopefully by the time I do 2, I'll have 3 and you know what I mean. I'm going to be trying things a little bit differently this time. I'm still going to kind of summarize the book and then do my review, but you'll see I'm just adding a little bit of something. Oh, and spoiler alert. So, Last Stand of the Wreckers, issue 1. So, I should probably mention before I get started that the story behind this is by James Roberts and Nick Roche. Nick Roche actually also did the script and the pencils for this. Very cool. Colors are Josh Burcham, I believe is how you say his name. Sorry if it's wrong. And the colors in here are really cool. And then this cover, obviously, is the Trevor Hutchinson alternate cover, and it's very nice. So the issue opens up, and we see that it says Garrus 9 Penitentiary 3 years ago, and we see that there's this huge fight going on. And we're introduced to Kickoff and Fortress Maximus, who are actually trying to keep away the Decepticons who are trying to release the other Decepticons from the penitentiary. But then we're also introduced to Skyquake, who is a Decepticon general who's leading his men. But as he's doing so, he is very rudely interrupted by another Decepticon named Overlord, who nobody is happy to see, who then quickly takes out poor Skyquake and takes control of his team. And after that, we just see a lot of carnage. And we also see that Overlord successfully releases the Decepticons from the penitentiary, and after doing so, has a little game where he gives Fortress Maximus over to them and says, just try not to kill him. But then, he's, brutally taken apart. Then we jump ahead to 8 months ago, where we are introduced to a couple new Autobots named Pyro, Guzzle, Iron Fist, Rotor Storm, and Dipstick. Now, the first 4 are actually trying to become Wreckers, and the last one's just yelling at them, basically telling them that they're stupid and that Wreckers don't necessarily come back, especially new guys. But they don't care, and they get on the ship that all the Wreckers are on. And when they get on the ship, interestingly enough, we meet Verity is there. So apparently she's kind of just been tagging along with the Wreckers since the last time we saw her, which I believe is at the end of Maximum Dinobots. So she ended up stowing away with them at some point. But as she's talking to them, the actual Wreckers come up, and of course that, at least in this panel, is Springer, Cup, Topspin, Twin Twist, and Perceptor. And basically, Springer just kind of gives them a little speech about being Wreckers, whatever. And then we go to another flashback that is 2 years ago. We get to see more of Overlord. We're now on the Decepticon side of things again, and we see a group of Decepticons chasing an Autobot that looks pretty beat up. They've been chasing this guy for a while, it looks like. And 2 of the Decepticons kind of get the drop on him, or really just catch up with him, and they have him pinned down. And they're really just making a joke out of it, and because they're not taking, being really careful with this, Overlord just kind of comes over and kills both of them, and has Snare take the Autobot with him. And that's really all that's going on there. And then we jump back to Magnus's ship, where we see that Iron Fist has passed out, and all of his buddies are like, hey, you okay? And then we find out that Iron Fist is a huge nerd and apparently has been keeping up all these data tracks on the Wreckers, and the Wreckers kind of find out because they knew about him in the first place. And so there's an interesting moment where he's talking about all the histories of the Wreckers, and Topspin and Twin Twist are talking to them. And it seems like, Iron Fist might get a little embarrassed, and he walks out and he actually runs into Springer. And Springer and Cup at that time were actually talking about what it's like being at Garrus 9 again. Especially because it seems that they have lost an Autobot there in the past named Impactor. So that's interesting enough. And then we jump back to 1 month ago, where we're on Garrus 9, and we see Kickoff from the beginning of the story and a Decepticon, and those 2 are battling it out, and Kickoff just beats this guy up, like, really, really brutally. And then right as his last moments, the Decepticon's like, wait, aren't you an Autobot? You're not supposed to act like this. And Kickoff says, well, that doesn't matter here, and rips his head off. And after he does so, Overlord tells him that he can go back with him and pick his prize. So, whatever that means. And then we go back to Ultra Magnus' ship, where they discover a really, really beat up Decepticon ship in front of them. And as it explodes, they notice there's a Cybertronian flying right at them, and they're about to shoot it down when suddenly they realize that it's actually Impactor. Interesting. So far, I am really digging this a lot. First and foremost, I have to say that the artwork and the compositions in this thing are awesome. Some of the uses of the colors, especially the color red, silhouettes, everything, it just looks really, really cool. I also really like the art style, especially when it comes to the faces. They're a little more cartoony than Transformers usually are, especially compared to like the ongoing artwork. But because of that, you can get a lot of emotion. Like some of these faces are just really, really expressive, and I like that a lot. One of the biggest things for me with Wreckers is that I'm actually not familiar with a lot of these characters, because I believe they're G2 characters, but I am really enjoying how they're being presented. I think they're being presented really well, especially for an audience that might not be as used to the G2 characters. The main 4 Autobots that are trying to join the Wreckers, I really like them. I love Iron Fist. I like how he's kind of just like an internet nerd, basically. I like Pyro, and even though he looks like Optimus Prime, I'm sure they're going to explain that, or they at least mention it in the issue, which is kind of cool. And, you know, I like Rotor Storm, and I like Guzzle. They're really cool. I like them. Overlord is really interesting, even though he's kind of a butt. And then, of course, there's Verity. To tell the truth, when I first saw her in the comic, I wasn't super pleased with how she was being presented. And it's not just because she was wearing, like, short shorts and, like, you know, a tank top or whatever. Her personality didn't seem quite right to me. Probably because I'm used to in the Asian series, she was a little bit more subdued, and, you know, brooding. And now she's just like, hey, I love the Autobots. We're just buddies. I call Ultra Magnus Maggie, which is funny. It's just not something that I'm used to. But after thinking about it, I really believe that's more because she probably just feels more at home with the Wreckers than she did where the place she was at on Earth. So it didn't bother me as much, especially by the end when she got back into her Asian's, you know, clothing. It'll be interesting to have the human component, especially because actually when Pyro first sees her, he's like, oh man, Optimus Prime was right. These guys are really fragile and we need to take care of them and protect them. And Verity's just like, okay, don't be my mom. Oh yeah, not to mention, this is pretty violent. Now, the rest of the Transformers comics probably have just as much energon spill, I guess you'd say, as this, but I think the way that this is presented makes it a little bit more aggressive and makes it seem a lot more violent, because these guys are just angry. And when you see an Autobot ripping off a Decepticon's head when the Decepticon is begging, you know, aren't you an Autobot? Why are you doing this? That's pretty darn violent, which I kind of like. And the cover. Most of you know I love Trevor Hutchinson's work for the Transformers series, and I really liked his covers for All Hail Megatron. The Nick Roche cover for this is really nice as well. It just doesn't quite give quite of as an in-your-face look as the Trevor Hutchinson one does. I don't really have any problems with it right now. The only thing that I'm still kind of on the edges with Verity, not necessarily that she's there or how she's dressed or anything like that, but kind of how she's drawn. I'm not digging completely the way her face is being designed, but I probably just need to get used to it. But so that's really all I have to say about this issue. I mean, it's really well written. I love the artwork. Really loving the artwork. I really like these G2 guys. I'm interested to see where they go, especially the main 4. I actually do have 2 items that are on their way. I don't have them yet, but I'm going to be very excited to talk about them. One of them was a birthday gift from my sister, and one of them is really a birthday gift to myself. But I'm going to be very, very excited to talk about them once I get them in. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet. It's going to be a surprise. And that's it. So I will see you guys next time for my review of issue 2. See ya! Just warning you guys, I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering these names right away because I'm not used to them. Pyro, Iron Fist, Guzzle, Rotor Storm. Pyro, Iron Fist, Guzzle, Rotor Storm. This is really hard for me to remember. I'm sorry.